Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we're going to be breaking down the 2025 Zurich Classic. Now, this is an event on the PGA Tour that has a little bit of a different format. And so what you're seeing this week is a lot of people in the content game are kind of either taking a week off or making it a light week. That's not how we're doing it around here. We are still attacking this as it is a normal week because it's still a PGA Tour event. There will still be an outright winner at the end of the week, and there is still DFS contest to play on DraftKings. So we are going to be approaching it as per the usual. And so what we're going to do on this episode is we're going to tell you everything you need to know about the 2025 Zurich Classic in 30 minutes or less. So that way you can pick some winners for this tournament, whether you're playing DFS, whether you're betting, whether you're playing one and done, no matter what your game is this week, we've got you covered. And hopefully we're going to help you guys have some success here with this unique event. And we're also going to discuss the unique characteristics of this event and this course itself that you're going to need to know. Now, this is NFL draft week. So we also released a full mock draft last night on our channel where we talked about all 32 teams in the first round. So make sure you check that out if you have not already. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That way you can be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season, as well as all of our NFL best ball content and college football best ball content that is going to be coming your way this summer. Y'all, I know it's like one of my least favorite things to do to ask for subscribers, but like genuinely, I didn't know how much until I started creating content. I did not know how much and like it mattered and how important it is. So if you have not already, please help me out. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if this video helps you out in any way, please hit the like button because it helps me out a ton when you guys do that. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the Zurich Classic. All right, so the Zurich Classic is unique because it is the one partner event that is on the PGA Tour schedule. That's right, teams are being used this week in the format, and everybody is partnered up that is here, and you're going to see two different formats throughout the week as we talk about the actual playing the golf, right? So on Thursday and Saturday, teams are going to be playing best ball, where basically each player is going to be playing the hole themselves, and whoever records the best score on the hole is going to be the score that gets recorded for the team. And then on Friday and Sunday, it's exactly what it sounds like when teams are going to be playing alternate shot, where basically they're just going to literally alternate shots. Somebody will tee off, somebody will hit shot number 2, the other guy will hit shot number 3 until the ball's in the hole. And so what you tend to see this week is because of that format, scores tend to get really, really low, especially from the best ball days, because you can see teams break 60 quite easily on the best ball days. Because, you know, if you're looking like at an example team of Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry, if Rory goes out and makes 9 birdies and Lowry goes out and makes 9 birdies, well, at a minimum, they're going to be at 9 under, right? And that's if they all happen to birdie the same 9 holes. But if they birdie different holes, then it's very easy that they could end up birdieing double-digit holes. They could end up getting to 60 or below for the score in the round. So generally speaking, what you're going to want to do if you want to win this event is you need to really make your hay on the best ball days. You really need to go low on those 2 days. And then on the alternate shot days, par is not a bad score, right? And so I really do think that you really want to do your damage on the best ball days. Teams who have won here in the past tend to do a lot more of their damage in terms of a strokes gain perspective and in terms of a strokes to par perspective than on the alternate shot days. Now, with this being a team event, and I'm going to talk more about this later, it basically breaks traditional data modeling and traditional strokes gain data. Like, it's just really, really difficult to get a true feel for this week. It's an event that's really hard to predict because of the team format. And so really just, it's going to be a week where you really have to be a ball knower. You really have to know and understand golf and how team golf works if you want to give yourself the best shot if playing some DFS lineups or picking some winners here this week. And that's what we're going to try to do here on this episode. We're going to try to look at everything we know about the course, about the format of the event, and about the golfers themselves to find some winners. Now, as for the course itself, TPC Louisiana is honestly, in my opinion, it's a very aesthetically pleasing golf course. If you're watching on YouTube, we've got a nice little flyover. It appears to be taken in the off season, but still, it's a very aesthetically pleasing golf course, right? It's designed by Pete Dye, much like what we saw last week at Harbortown, much like what we've seen at TPC Sawgrass and TPC River Highlands. However, to me, this course falls more so into the TPC category than it does into the Pete Dye category. And what I mean by that is this: TPC courses tend to be very flat. They tend to feature elevated green surfaces, and they tend to feature a very much risk-reward design with a lot of water and a lot of kind of drivable, not necessarily drivable par 4s, but holes where there is a risk and reward associated with being aggressive with either your line off the tee or your club selection off the tee, and same deal on approach, right? There's not as much of the Pete Dye characteristics, what we look at with, trees messing with sight lines and a lot of dog legs and a lot of bunkering. It's not really that, right? This is a very run-of-the-mill TPC course. The fairways themselves are pretty wide, and there is basically no penalty for missing the fairway. The rough is virtually non-existent. There's not a whole lot of bunkering. There is a good deal of water, but like, it's a lot of holes where the water is on like one side or the other. And with there being no penalty for being on the other side, you can basically just say, okay, the water's on the right. I'm going to make sure I aim left, and I'm going to have virtually no penalty if I'm on the other side of the water. And then when you're hitting your approach shots, really these greens are quite large, and they all feature short grass runoff areas. Like it's not unlike what we saw last week at Harbor Town, where there is just a lot of short grass runoff, and a lot of the around the green shots are going to be off short grass as opposed to heavy rough. But the greens themselves are quite easy to hit because they're quite large. The main piece of difficulty on this course is on the scorecard. The par threes are quite long. And anytime you have a long iron shot into a defended par three, that is going to be one of the more difficult holes. But other than that, like there's just not a whole lot of difficulty on the course, if I'm being totally honest. Like the off the tee is going to be quite minimalized because of the fact that you can just kind of put it anywhere as long as you're not in the water. And then you're going to really want to make your hay on approach. Really, the secret to winning this week is by doing your damage on approach and making sure that you give yourself the most makeable birdie putt possible. The greens are where the Pete Dye characteristics do show up. That there's a lot of character, a lot of elevation changes on these greens, and so not necessarily automatic putts once you're on the green, but you're going to want to give yourself as many chances as possible to make those birdies, right? Now, I do think there's a little bit of a psychological thing that goes with this being a partner competition, right? So basically, this week when you're playing alternate shot, there definitely is some psychology. I really do think that, because if I'm Rory McIlroy, right, and I've got an approach shot heading into a par four, and I know that I can attack this pin, because if I attack it and I miss, I know that Shane Lowry has the type of short game that he can get up and down. He can give me a makeable par putt, right? Whereas if you're a lesser combination, such as like a Nick Watney and Charlie Hoffman, old Charlie Hoffman might be sitting, dang, like Watney doesn't have that much of a short game. I can't miss this. I'm going to be conservative, right? And so the teams that are willing to go out there and fire at pins and be aggressive and have the short game to kind of have each other's backs, or the teams that are going to go out there and win. So the secret is not only making birdies by firing at pins and being super aggressive on your approach shots, but it's also to have the short game to back it up. And you're going to have to make a lot of really solid chips and putts this week if you want to win as well. All right. Now, with all that being said, our key stats for this week. It's quite simple because, like I said, this course really, with the format, it kind of breaks traditional modeling. So the main two stats that I'm going to be looking at are strokes gained approach and birdie or better percentage. And kind of washing my hands like that's it, right? Like those are the two key stats that I'm going to be looking at. I'm also going to look at some different type of comp course performance, as well as just general strokes gained total. We've got a lot of guys coming to this tournament that are playing from different tours with different statuses on the PGA Tour. So you just really, like, the data is not something that you're going to want to go by this week. You're going to want to be somebody who is a ball knower with the courses, with the golfers. That's going to be the main way you can really get an edge this week. And in terms of the comp courses, like I said earlier, I think all TPC courses and I think all Pete Dye courses are a little bit valid. But the best comp courses, in my opinion, TPC Twin Cities, Detroit Golf Club, TPC Sawgrass. Those are courses where you can be super aggressive, but there's also some risk reward element to it. And courses where firing at pins is something that can get rewarded, because if you're accurate with your approach, that's really where you're going to make your hay at all three of those golf courses. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to take a look at the data for this tournament. All right, so we're about to dive down the rabbit hole, and I'm not referring to an actual rabbit hole. I'm referring to the rabbit hole, which is a tool from BetSperts Golf. That is where I get all of my data from. It is, in my opinion, the best data site that is available. It has all different kinds of conditions and filters that you can use to really isolate the micro skills that you want from specific golfers on specific weeks, and allows you to make a custom model off of that. However, here's my one gripe this week, though, and it's kind of what I've been hitting at so far. This format breaks traditional data in modeling. As you can see, what we've got on BetSperts is they really have just filtered out and done by individual golfers. So I don't really get to, do a whole lot of combined metrics. If I wanted to take all the time to download this into a spreadsheet and generate sums from certain golfers, could I do that? Yeah. Do I think it's generally going to be worth my time too? No. So I'm really going to look at the data this week, and I'm going to see what golfers pop up near the top. And then I'm also going to kind of go back and cross-reference it to their price tag and to the guys that, they're paired with, so that way we can really get a sense of what we're looking at this week. So the first thing I wanted to look at, I wanted to get a basic strokes gained total model of just who is playing the best golf right now. We've got Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa, Garrick Higo, Seb Straka, and Bud Cauley as the top five. I wanted to look at also strokes gained approach, last 30 rounds, just who is hitting the ball the best with their irons. We've got Seb Straka, Henrik Nordlander, Colin Morikawa, Rory McIlroy, and Sammy Valimaki. After that, I want to look at strokes gained putting only on the Poa Trivialis overseed. I neglected to mention this in the course description, but this is another week like what we saw last week with Harbour Town, like what we see at TPC Sawgrass, where it is a Bermuda grass base with a Poa Trivialis overseed. I'm no agronomy expert, but I know that BetSperts has the filter where I can click Poa Trivialis on it, and I can sort by that and know who the best putters on that surface are. And I know enough to know that it's a climate reason, right? Like basically the Bermuda grass isn't fully bloomed. I guess bloom might not be the right word, but isn't fully in season yet. So that's why they use the Poa overseed. So the top in this field on putting on that surface: Sam Ryder, Christian Bezadenhoop, Thomas Dietrich, Jacob Bridgman, and Bo Hostler. Pure birdie or better. Who are the birdie makers in this field? We have got Alejandro Del Rey, Colin Morikawa, Cam Davis, Rory McIlroy, and Nicholas Norgard. Then when you look at strokes gained total on TPC courses only, best in the field: Rory McIlroy, Doug Ghim, Aaron Rai, Akshay Bhatia, JT Poston is your top 5. And then strokes gained total on Pete Dye courses only, who goes to the top. We've got JT Poston, Carson Young, Kevin Yu, Alex Smalley, and Christian Bezadenhout. Now, when you throw all of that into a custom model, what you end up with is no surprise. None whatsoever. Best golfer in the field, according to my model, Rory McIlroy. He is coming off of the green jacket win at the Masters, career Grand Slam at the Masters. He is coming off of a win at the Players Championship, a Pete Dye design, quite similar to this one, similar agronomy. He is the defending champ of this event, partnered with the same guy he won this event with last year in Shane Lowry. Yeah, Rory McIlroy is very clearly the best golfer in the field, and to me, that very clearly makes Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry the top pair in the field. More on them a little bit later. Sepp Straka comes in at number 2. Not surprised there. My model's very much heavily weighted towards approach, and Sepp Straka has absolutely been killing it with his irons lately. Akshay Bhatia is coming in number 3. Super well-rounded player, has a lot of successes at all of my comp courses. I think that's quite a good look for Akshay there at number 3. Bud Cauley is number 4. I have concerns about his partner, though. More on that a little bit later. Colin Morikawa coming in number 5. Ryan Gerard, number 6. Ben Griffin, 7. Aaron Rai, 8. JT Poston, 9. And Keith Mitchell, 10. Which, coincidentally, makes JT Poston and Keith Mitchell the only team to have 2 golfers in the top 10 of my model. That's kind of impressive. It really is. Now, I will say, I'm going to tinker with this model all week. This might not be the week to make this advertisement, but if you want to know who the top 10 of my model is when I am done tinkering after I have the finalized edition of it, you can head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks. Every Wednesday, I post my DFS core plays for DraftKings, FanDuel, and the top 10 for my model, as well as a full write-up on why they are my core plays and the top 10 in my model. So if you want access to that information, the Patreon is the place you would go for that. If you want more from me, you can follow me on Twitter at MikesMoneyPicks, and you could hop in the fantasy Discord as well. All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about this field in totality, right? In pairs as opposed to the individual golfers. So as we mentioned earlier, Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry are the defending champs. They are both coming in with good form. They are clearly the best pair in this field. Shane Lowry ranks 23rd in my model. Rory ranks 1st. Like, that's about as good as it gets in terms of what you're looking at, right? And honestly, when you look back at the winners of this event, the teams that win this event are traditionally just the most talented team coming in. You know, we had Rory and Shane last year. 2 years ago was the outlier. It was Davis Riley and Nick Hardy. 3 years ago, Xander and Cantlay. 4 years ago, Cam Smith and Mark Leishman. There was no event in 2020, which is kind of ironic that the team event got canceled. I guess they thought maybe you could get COVID from playing with a partner. I don't know. But then in 2019, it was Jon Rahm and Ryan Palmer. So like the 4 of the last 5 winners have been just the most talented team. And to me, McIlroy and Lowry, the most talented team. I don't necessarily get down with betting teams with this short of odds or betting any golfer with this short of odds to win a golf tournament, but they're very clearly the favorites. They're very clearly the most likely to win. And when you're playing DFS this week, I think they're very clearly the top pay up option. And I know they're going to be very popular. I'm okay with that. I'm going to eat the chalk, and they're going to be guys that are probably going to be some of my most popular plays as well, just because of you don't often get a combo that is that well balanced. And really, there's just no weaknesses with the exception of Shane Lowry's putting. But like that can only be so much of a weakness here at this event. Like, how much of a weakness can it be when they won the event last year? Now, Colin Morikawa and Kurt Kitayama, that's a team I'm going to be fading in DFS, a team that I'm not spending any of my outright money on betting. Colin Morikawa, his history at this event has not been good. He has not finished in the top 20 of this event, and he traditionally shows up here in pretty good form. He traditionally shows up here with a good partner, right? And so you look at his history at this event. I guess they don't even have it in the database, but yeah, he has not recorded a top 20 here. And so that really just has me concerned. In this combination last year, Morikawa and Kitayama, they did play together, but they didn't come in the top 20. And so I don't have any reason to think that they're going to come in the top 20 this year, given that Kitayama is not coming in good form. He ranks 88th in my model, which is quite poor considering the bottom of this field. So I really do think that that's going to be a combination that I'm going to be fading. Robert McIntyre and Thomas Dietrich is a combination that I will be getting to a little bit in DFS. I think they're going to be kind of like the sneaky play in this range because I think you're going to see a ton of ownership to McIlroy and Lowry, and I think you're going to see a ton of ownership to the next team I'm about to talk about. So McIntyre and Dietrich, this is just a comfortable pairing, right? They showed up to this event last year, and I do have that leaderboard. They showed up to this event last year, and they finished T8. And they were not the golfers then that they are now. Like, since that event, McIntyre's won 2 big boy events. Thomas Dietrich has won 1 big boy event. They're both coming off of missed cuts at the Masters, not necessarily impressive showings at Harbour Town, but they clearly are comfortable together. They clearly have played this event well in the past. And these are 2 guys that have hopes of making the Ryder Cup team. And they know that showing up to an event like this and playing well could help their kind of audition, I guess you could say, for the Ryder Cup team. It could definitely give them some positive vibes as a potential pairing in the Ryder Cup. So I like the 2 of them a lot. I think there's a lot more than meets the eye than just the data when it comes to their course fit here. JT Poston and Keith Mitchell. Love him as a combination. Love him as a team. Keith Mitchell generally plays pretty well at this event. He plays it every year. He always finds somebody decent to play with. One year he played with Sung Jae. Last year, I do not think he played with JT Poston, but I do know that he played this event and he played pretty well. But yeah, these are 2 guys that they're just elite birdie makers, right? He played with Joel Damon last year, Keith Mitchell did. But they're elite birdie makers. And these are 2 guys that can come out and just get absolutely scorching hot. And if they both happen to do it at the same time, look out. Like, this is a team that is probably second in terms of ceiling to only Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry in this event. And so I really do think that that's a really good combination, one that I'm going to be playing a lot in DFS. If I'm not playing McIlroy and Lowry lineups, I might be looking to get McIntyre, Dietrich, and Poston Mitchell in the same lineup. I do think there's enough value out there that you can make that work. But I really do like both of those pairs there at the bottom of the 10K range. Now, heading to the 9K range on DraftKings, we got Ben Griffin and Andrew Novak. And y'all, Novak and Griffin, these are 2 guys that have been knocking at the door for a win for quite some time and just haven't come through with it. And these are 2 guys that have tended to play well at this type of golf course and are pretty good putters of the golf ball. Griffin especially. Novak, not as much, but Novak was pretty good putting at Harbour Town. So I think that's actually quite legitimate combination to win. I think if I were to be getting to them, though, it would be in as an outright bet as opposed to DFS. I think they're a little bit overpriced in terms of DFS from my perspective. Wyndham Clark and Taylor Moore, this is a team that could absolutely go nuclear. They're 2 guys that they both have 2 skill sets that they do really well. They're both driver putter guys, neither of whom are great iron players, which is not necessarily the position you want to be in, I don't think, for this event. But these are 2 guys that they can get nuclear hot with the putter. So would it shock me to see them win? No. Are they my favorite team from a betting or a DFS perspective? Also, no. But they have a very clearly defined skill set that they're going to, kind of be anchored on here this week. Tom Hoge and Billy Horschel, I think, is an interesting pairing, right? So Tom Hoge, interestingly enough, his long-term profile is normally Mr. Approach Shot and Mr. Can't Putt, right? Like, that's generally what Hoagie's profile has been. But you look recently, the approach play is still pretty good. The putting is turned around. 5 straight event where he's gained over half a stroke per round with the putter. That's over 2 strokes for the event. It's pretty solid. And this event is like the Billy Horschel Invitational. For whatever reason, Billy Horschel shows up here every year, takes a lot of pride in playing it, and takes a lot of pride in playing well at it. He's played with Sam Burns in this event before and played really well. I believe he won it like in one of the first iterations as a team, but I can't remember who his teammate was. Don't quote me on that. But I do think that this is an event where these 2 are going to play really well together, and they're probably my favorite overall playing the 9K range. I also do like Aaron Rai and Sahith Theegala as a pivot, though. So they kind of complement each other with different skills in what they do well, right? So Aaron Rye is really good at TBC courses, really good at Pete Dye courses, right? And he's a really good approach player. Sahith is a really good putter. And also, we tend to like Sahith at courses where wayward drives can't hurt you a whole lot. So we liked him last week because we thought the driver would be out of his hand and he could only hurt himself so much with the driver. And so I really do think that this is the type of event that you could see both these guys play well at, right? Like you've got the approach play of Rye, you've got the driving and putting of Thigala. I kind of think that's a pretty good combination there at 9,200. I think they're going to be quite lowly owned in DFS. So they're going to be two guys that I'm going to go after in that format. You got the Højgaards, the twins, Nikolai and Rasmus at 9,100 on DraftKings. I'm out on them. They're just not coming in good form. They're obviously going to be a comfortable pairing. They obviously know each other's game, but I'm just kind of out on them just because of the form, right? It's just really hard to get behind it. I do believe they played this event together last year. Yes, they did, and they missed the cut. It's not a good sign. Because making the cut here, you only got to pretty much come in the top half after Friday, and the bottom half of the field's quite bad. So not a good sign that they missed the cut here. I think that that's a team that I'm probably going to be fading. Grazerman and Echeverria is a dangerous combination because both of these guys lately have been playing well, but it's been very putting dependent. But this is the type of course where you could get away with being putting dependent. So I don't think it's necessarily like the best spot for them. I don't think they're my favorite team, but they're worth a look. Akshay Bhatia and Carson Young is interesting because both of these guys have like flipped their profile in like the last calendar year, right? Both of these guys at this time last year, I would have told you were elite ball strikers that were on Team No Putt. And what you've seen since then is both of them have significantly upped their putting, particularly on this surface. Both of them are also quite good at this type of golf course. Carson Young being elite at Pete Dye courses, Akshay Bhatia being elite at TPC courses. Akshay really racked up a lot of success at a lot of the comp courses that we let off. He almost won the Players this year. He was runner-up at Detroit Golf Club last year. I think this is a pretty good combination because these two guys are going to show up. They're going to fire at pins. And if you got these two guys firing at pins over 72 holes, they're going to make some hay, right? So I think that that's a pretty good combo that I'm going to look at. Very high upside combo, 8,900. I hope a lot of people aren't going to opt to play them. I think the more people are going to opt to play Sepp Straka and Bryce Garnett because Sepp Straka is coming in off such elite form, having won this year, just being one of the best approach players in the field. And they have played this event before. They were T11 last year as a combination, only 5 shots off the lead to be T11. So while Bryce Garnett is just kind of a very average pro, Sepp Straka is coming in at probably the best form in his career. He's been great at these type of shorter golf courses, been great at Pete Dye courses. There's a lot to like here, right? And the fact that they came T11 last year definitely tells me that they could do it again this year. Now, as we get down, I'm not going to go over every team the rest of the way. That'd take me forever, but let's just kind of hit some highlights. Thorbjorn Olesen and Matt Wallace, they're significantly overpriced. I'm not playing them. Nick Taylor and Adam Hadwin, they are a Canadian duo that has played this event numerous times together. They were 10th here last year. Really went into the final round with a chance to win and just kind of didn't close it well on the alternate shot. But they're a very clearly comfortable pairing that they take a lot of pride in this event. I'm in on them too for this event. I think they're going to be very popular. Svensson and Norgard, another overpriced combination. I'm out. Garrick Higo and Ryan Fox. This is an interesting one. So they played this event together last year with no form and came T4. Now you're looking at a situation where Garrick Higo is coming in off of a win at the Corrales Punta Cana Championship. So keep in mind with Garrick Higo, at the start of his career back in 2021, he won twice on the DP World Tour, back-to-back weeks, both in tropical locations, if my memory serves me. Came over to the United States, played like one event, and then boom, was in the U.S. Open. I don't remember how he played in it. And then the week after that, won the Palmetto Championship, which secured his PGA Tour card for a year. The Palmetto Championship was what replaced the Canadian Open the COVID year. So this is a guy that when he finds form, he wins, and he has the upside to get it done. Ryan Fox is the type of guy that can drive the living crap out of the ball, and he's a great putter as well. Higo's actually statistically a really good putter. So I think the two of them, especially considering what they did last year, they're going to be one of my favorite combinations this year. Michael Thorbjornsen and Carl Phillips are kind of like a similar version of that. Carl Phillips recently won the Puerto Rico Open. Michael Thorbjornsen is a young up-and-coming guy coming out of college. Both of these guys absolutely mash the ball. Both these guys are going to absolutely fire at pins. Both of them have a pretty high birdie or better rate to back that up. And so I think that that's a pretty good look for both of them. I think that's a very high upside team. They're $8,300. I think if you're looking to make an outright bet, I think those two guys are a really solid outright bet because I think they have the upside to win this tournament. You've got the Fitzpatrick brothers at 8,100, but they're an archetype of a team that I would caution you about. I don't really necessarily want to go with these teams where you've clearly got one A player and one B player. That generally just has not been a good format or a good roster construction, I should say, for this event. And Matt Fitzpatrick, he is starting to show a little bit of form, but these two guys, like, they show up to this event every year. They play it every year. They make the cut every year, but they're like T11 every year. I just don't think they have the upside to win the tournament with Alex being on the team. Sorry, Alex. Laurie Cantor and Jordan Smith, I think they're vastly underpriced. I think you can make the argument that they're one of the best teams in the 8K range, given what they have done on the DP World Tour this season. The problem is that a lot of people aren't looking at DP World Tour data, aren't looking at DP World Tour finishes. Yeah, you look at what they've done. They're legitimately probably one of the top 15 teams in this field. They're underpriced at $8,000. I will be playing them in DFS for that reason. Sam Ryder and Rico Hoey. These are two guys that are going to absolutely ball strike the crap out of the ball. Rico Hoey cannot putt to save his life, though. Good news is Sam Ryder can. So I think that that's actually a very comfortable pairing there at 7,900. Both of them rated out in the top 30 in my model. I think that's a really, really solid pairing there to look at is Ryder and Hoey. Now, another one that I like, I'm really just going to hit the guys that I like now. Doug Gim and Chan Kim is interesting. Both of these guys, much like the two that I just mentioned, will ball strike the crap out of the ball, but they can't putt. Neither of them can putt. Like, if they miraculously roll in some putts, they're going to be in good shape, but can't neither of them putt. That's very much a concerning thing heading into this week because you're going to have to make a lot of birdie putts. All right, another pair that I like, Cam Davis and Adam Svensson. They're priced pretty low to me. They did not rate out well in my model at all. But you talk about two guys that are going to come out and make birdies and fire at pins, and both of them are kind of rounding into form. You know, Cam Davis at Harbor Town last week, that's a course that I traditionally don't think would fit his game all that well. He really scrambled his butt off and came T13. That's really good for Cam Davis at that golf course. And then Adam Svensson had a pretty good showing at the Corrales Punta Cana as well. So I do like both of them there at 7,600. My model loved Ryan Gerard and Danny Walker as a combination. I thought that was a little bit interesting. But yeah, you look at what they're both doing on approach. You look at how they're both playing coming in. It's a small sample size, but both of them are playing quite well. Maybe that's a little bit of a sleeper team to look at because of how much my model loved them. Another combo that I do like, you talk about a pair that's going to come out and just try to make birdies. The combination of Jake Knapp and Frankie Sappin is going to do that. Hayden Springer and Nate Lashley have a chance to do that as well. Both of them played very well at the Corrales Punta Cana last week. I don't think that's a terrible look for either of those teams there at $7,400. Now, Bud Cauley. This is what we were talking about earlier. Bud Cauley breaks out so well in my model. He's playing such good golf right now. But the partner is the concern. Bud Cauley is partnered with Kevin Tway. It's a little bit out of order here on the rabbit hole. But here's the good news about Kevin Tway. He played this event last year, came in 11th place, partnered with Kelly Craft. Kelly Craft is not Bud Cauley. So maybe if Cauley has a good week, they could have a lot of upside. I think that's a combination that I'm going to be playing quite a bit because if Tway can play well here with Kraft as a partner, then surely he could play well here with this iteration of Bud Cauley as a partner. The Paul twins, Jeremy and Yannick, no relation to Logan and Jake. Jeremy and Yannick are both pretty good. And I think they're a little underpriced here at $7,300. They're more DP World Tour guys. I think they're worth a look in DFS formats. Probably do not have the upside to win the tournament, though. Davis Riley and Nick Hardy have won this event before. Riley is coming in really good form. Hardy is not. Don't have a whole lot to say other than that. Now, another combination that I really do like, I like this little $7,100 range in general. So you've got Justin Lauer that is playing with Chad Ramey. Chad Ramey was runner-up here last year with Martin Schreiner as a partner. Both of these guys also coming in off of good performances at the Corrales Punta Cana. Lauer is a really good putter of the golf ball in general, but he hasn't been putting it well lately. So if you think he's due for some putting regression, which I do, and you think that Ramey is a pretty good setup for this course, which I do, that's a really solid value play there at $7,100. I'm going to be playing a lot of them. You've also got Patrick Fishburne and Zach Blair, who played this event last year, and they were T4. So to me, that makes them worth a look at $7,100 on DraftKings. Again, probably not betting them to win the tournament. I'm probably not going to bet somebody that's like a super long shot this week because I just think that this event tends to be won by the most talented combinations. But I do think that these two guys make a lot of sense to play in DFS. Maybe a solid top 10, top 20 bet there for Patrick Fishburne and Zach Blair. Honestly, nobody to me is off the table this week simply because of the fact that this is an event where it's kind of random. The team format, depending on who makes the birdies when, you can just end up with just different combinations of guys that end up playing well out of nowhere. Now, it's getting a little bit harder to tell who's on the teams because, when they're at the same salary, they can get shuffled up. But down here at 6,900, Ben Silverman and Sammy Valimaki, I like a lot. Valimaki is really hitting the ball well on approach. Silverman is not playing great golf coming in, but he is a really good putter long term. So if you got Valimaki with his approach play, with his ball striking, you got Silverman with his putting, that's a combination that might be a little bit comfortable in my opinion. Now, the other one that I'm going to talk about, there is one. It was, oh gosh, I lost him. Hold on. I'm pretty sure it was 6,700. Give me a second. Oh, the other guy is not showing up. Angel Avora and Alejandro Del Rey are at $6,700. This is a combination that plays their golf internationally. They're not bad, and I think they are priced pretty well for their price tag. I think that's a combination that I would look at. And then the other combination that I would look at, there's two more that I want to mention. Mark Hubbard and Ryan Brehm played really well here last year. I believe they were third place. Yes, they were third place. Only one shot out of the playoff last year. I like the two of them at this, just not because they're coming in good form, not because they're great, just because they're a comfortable pairing. And then last two that I'll mention, Ben Coles and Patton Kazire. These are two guys that play very well at easy golf courses because they're guys that will fire at pins and they're guys that will make birdies. And I think that will play well here, even though they did not come out well in my model at all. Just the type of guys that just, what's the word I'm looking for? Anecdotally could play well here because of my knowledge of how they play. All right, so let's talk one and done real quick before we go. That's just kind of talking about a lot of the guys that I was interested in on the board. So look, from a one and done perspective, if you're playing one and done this week, you need to know the rules of your one and done. Is it going to take one golfer? Is it going to count for both golfers? What's it going to be, right? Because to me, if you're looking at taking just one golfer, taking Shane Lowry and getting whatever McIlroy and Lowry earn is a pretty solid proposition, right? I think the same thing could be said about taking JT Poston or Keith Mitchell. But I think if you're taking two golfers this week and you're looking for, somebody that you're not going to want to use again in the future, I think that the Poston and Mitchell combination is pretty solid for that. I would probably avoid McIntyre and Dietrich and Ben Griffin and Andrew Novak. I would probably avoid them too, because some of those events in the summer, some of those Jabroni events, those four guys could all end up being favorites at one of those events. So I would probably not go with both of them. I think that Tom Hoagie and Billy Horschel are a really solid look if you're doing both teammates or even one teammate for either of the two of them. If you're doing both teammates, though, to me, then the no-brainer play would be to go with Garrick Higgo and Ryan Fox. I don't think there's another situation where you're going to want to use them the rest of the season. Same deal with Michael Thorey Brunson and Carl Phillips. But like I said, if you're playing one and done this week, know the rules, know your format, know whether you're burning one of the golfers or two of the golfers, and plan your selection accordingly. All right, y'all, that is going to do it for this episode, though. So we were a little over our 30-minute limit, but I think when you take out the introduction, we were pretty close to it. Yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully, we gave you guys plenty of information in order to pick some winners here at the Zurich Classic, whether or not you are playing DFS, whether or not you are betting. Hopefully, we gave you guys all that you guys need to know in order to pick some winners this week, and hopefully, we do a good job with that ourselves. But that is going to do it for this episode, y'all. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point. Best of luck to you guys with whatever your action is at the Zurich Classic, and I will see you guys next time.